Hey guys, Finlux here, back with just back, I guess, in general. With me today is Manny. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, today, you know, um, how to get quotes for your house repair. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because so many people around me, um, like basically everyone owns their own home or is in a home, and I'm only recently to it. I'm like, I purchased my home about a year and a half ago, and no one that I've talked to, none of my coworkers, know the purpose of getting multiple quotes, getting the 3 quotes or more, right? Everybody thinks it's about cost, about price, and that is incorrect. So I want to share with you guys my understanding of the reason, okay? And you might ask yourself, well, who the hell are you to say these things when you've only owned your home for a year and a half? And I would just say that in this year and a half, I have touched in some form or fashion every aspect of the house. Uh, I just recently had the roof replaced. I've had the trees trimmed. I have dealt with the foundation. I've dealt with the electrical system. I've dealt with the plumbing system. I've dealt with had to replace the water softener. You know, within the first couple months, I had to tear out and replace, remodel the shower, the walk-in shower, because that was leaking under the bed, under the bedroom. The HVAC system had issues. Um, lots, basically everything, basically all the expensive things, which, you know, normally that's not what you want. In my case, I would prefer not either, but I've learned a lot, and I'm really surprised that all the people that I talk to for recommendations and advice don't know. They have no idea what they're doing. So, first thing, if you're trying to get a quote, you let's say you need something done on your house, okay? They conventional wisdom tells you get 3 quotes, go with the cheapest. They also tell you get recommendations from friends and family, people that have used it before. And those are both kind of true. They're almost more false than they're true because, at least from what I've found, whenever I ask friends and family for recommendation, they just tell me ads that they see. Because I have to ask them specifically. They're like, "Oh, use these people." I'm like, "Did you use them?" Well, no. I'm like, "Okay, I only want people that you've used that are good, that you had a good experience with." And the other thing is they can't tell you whether they can just tell you, yeah, they showed up on time, did the work, blah blah blah. And they'll always, most often than not, they'll tell you that everything went well. They won't tell you, "Oh yeah, they destroyed my bushes," like the roofers. Something you got to watch out for. Um, they won't tell you, "Oh yeah, they did this," or "they showed up late," or whatever. You know, me personally, I hired a painter once and couldn't even paint straight lines with tape. And he's like, "Oh, I also do handyman stuff," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I noticed the wavy lines later, and I'm like, if this dude can't even get the basic shit right, there's no way. Like, I am looking for a handyman, but there's no way I'm hiring him for other product or projects going forward. Um, and strangely enough, this was a recommendation from the people that redid my shower, so even their recommendations aren't good. Tradespeople don't always know good people either. So the goal of all of this is to find someone that you have the best chance of doing the thing that you want correctly. Okay? Regardless of cost. You can sort for cost later. But generally speaking, if they know what they're doing and they've been doing it a while and they're good at what they do, they might be the most expensive, but they're probably around the middle also. That's just been in my experience. But of course, you never really know, right? Like many of the reasons that I'm having problems, or many of the problems that I've had with the house, are due to shoddy work that looked, well, it didn't even really look nice. It looks mostly good, and but it was, cut corners were everywhere. You know, you look at it, you're like, oh, the light switch isn't, it's not fully level. It's like off just a little bit, or it sticks out a little bit farther. You know, it's not flush with the wall. All these like little things, and it's like, well, now knowing what I know, because I talked to one of my neighbors, and like regarding the roof, my neighbor was like, you know, the previous owners, they got a quote from the fence guys. My neighbor is redoing his fence, and they also do roofs on the side. And the quote that the previous owners of my house got from those guys was too high, which explains everything basically. And so if you're paying, you know, if the previous owners paid low dollar, not even top dollar, but like low bottom dollar, they paid bottom dollar to have it done. It looks fantastic for bottom dollar work. Yeah, but lots of issues. So that's also something that I would suggest when you're going through the house. If it's your first house, and probably even your first few, and maybe every house you purchase, it's going to be super stressful. It's the biggest purchase of your life, and you're not necessarily going to notice the little things that you should, right? So if the tiles in the floor, maybe they're not totally even. Maybe the light switch covers are tilted a little bit. You know, all these little things. If they can't do the little things right, they can't do the big things right either. I'm sort of deducing that at least my house was presumably it was all renovated all at once, from what I can gather. And probably the same guy did everything, and he was not really good at any of it. So, yeah. But right, so the point of the quotes, basically, like I said, figure out, can this person, does this person know what they're doing? Because that's all you can do. The best you can do is, do they know what they're doing? Whether they actually do the proper job or not is a different matter, and that is out of your control for the most part. But at least, do they know what they're doing? And that's really the purpose of the quotes, is to interview the people and to figure out, do they know how to do it properly? For you to know if they did, you know, I can't talk today. For you to know if they know what they're doing, you have to know how to do the job. And there's plenty of YouTube videos out there for whatever task you're trying to do. But as you're interviewing them, they will also kind of not tell on each other, but they'll be like, oh, ask this other. I'll be like, hey, I'm still getting quotes. And they're going to be like, oh, we'll ask these people if they do this. Maybe it matters. Maybe it doesn't matter. But it's something to consider, right? Right. So recommendations from friends and family, if they've used them, get a quote from them. Why not? It's not going to hurt unless it's an emergency. And that's the thing. Most house related stuff is not actually an emergency. You know, me, I had a leak in the roof. It's probably been leaking for a couple of years. But I just started noticing the paint distorting in a certain corner, and ended up buying a moisture meter, put it up there 100%. I was like, ah, crap. So ran the dehumidifier, and then basically constantly until I found the right person, which strangely was a recommendation. But yeah, like I said, my other people, my other friends and family and coworkers, they'd be like, "Oh, use so and so because they're on TV." I'm like, oh, "Come on." But yeah, so interview them, and also the quotes is to actually figure out what the pricing should be, because if a price is too low or too high, then there's something wrong with it. Now, it's entirely possible they still might be great, but if they're not pricing it correctly, they, generally speaking, don't know what they're doing. or they're just one of these brand companies. Like, all the smaller ones are disappearing, and because customer service is a real bitch in general. And that's the thing that everybody sucks at. And so they're going out of business, and they're losing to the people that actually provide good customer service, which unfortunately they're the ones that come out with the frickin' iPads, and they're basically just salespeople. And that sucks. And that's why you really need to be on top of your game. And they'll usually give you, like, well, there's this plan and there's this plan. And just be like, I just want this. Can you just do this one thing? Oh, well, sure. Right? Because my HVAC, for example, there was growth. They can't say mold because mold requires like an actual mold test and stuff. And if you were to actually get a mold test or an air quality test, I have no idea if it's actually a problem or not. That's something I maybe jumped the gun on. But they had to. There's the AC unit itself, and then there's what are called plenums, which are like the boxes that all the ducting connects to. And that had a bunch of growth in it, like a lot. And so we ended up putting one of those UV lights in there and changing those out and cleaning the coils. And they're like, "Oh, we recommend replacing all the ducts." And I was like, "Don't you guys just offer a duct cleaning service?" Oh yeah, we do that too. Let's do that then. I don't want to get charged like frickin' $10,000 to replace all the ductwork in the house. No. You know? So, yeah, anyway. And then, of course, I wonder how much of a frickin' scam that is, because I'm asking them about the vacuum. I was like, "Can I see what's in this stuff? What gets sucked out?" And they're like, "Oh, it's sealed in the vacuum. It just goes back to the warehouse." And then, it's like once a month they clean them. They change them out. I'm just like, once a month? You use this thing like every day, and it pulls so little stuff out of it that you only need to empty it once a month? But that's how you learn. That's how you learn. You learn from bad decisions, I guess. Bad decisions give you experience, and that makes good decisions. Okay, so you interview your people, use the knowledge you get from one to ask others questions, and then compare pricing. Quotes are usually only good for 30 to 60 days. And then based on that, you make a determination. You also want to consider, obviously, customer service. Like, are they responsive? Are they just a salesperson? The person that I went with for the roof actually was the only one that tried to solve my problem. It was in the far corner of the attic. And he was like, I was like, "It's out there. I don't expect you to go out there because I don't want to die." And he went out there because he was trying to see. And then he got up on the roof and he's like, "I can't actually find the leak." By the way, none of them could. But they're happy to point out like different flaws or whatever. And, of course, the big box company was like, "Yeah, we just recommend replacing the whole roof. Look at all these problems you have, and a roof will solve all of this." Which is exactly what the foundation repair people did. They're like, "Oh, you have this problem with your foundation. Oh yeah, foundation repair will fix all of that." I'm like, "Do you actually fix this one problem that I called you for?" "Well, foundation repair will fix all of that." "Will it fix this, though? This one thing specifically?" Well, no. We don't do that. "But if you hire us, we'll refer you to a company that does." Like, no. So get a bunch of quotes, interview them, find out, are they good? Do they know what they're talking about? You have to learn, unfortunately, that, and like I said, I've been kind of lazy at some of that. And then get some recommendations, but only, if they've used it. But that doesn't stop most people. I'll be like, I need an arborist, and they'll send me ads, because one of my trees looked like it was sick or whatever. I'm like, so I need an arborist to find out if this tree is sick, and they start, some of my friends start sending me, oh, I just saw an ad for, cleaning up your flower beds by this one company. I'm like, do they have an arborist? I don't know. Like, I get you want to be helpful, but you're not helping me by sending me garbage, right? You're just sending me work. But anyway, anything else? Interview them, get knowledge, evaluate customer service, evaluate their knowledge, look at their pricing, see where they're at. Something else about pricing, make sure it's, because if they're real good, they'll give you like a itemized quote, which is fantastic. Because when I first started asking people, the shower was the first thing that I did for the house. And the first quote that I got was just some random number, which I assume is labor only, because it was super low. And then when I asked the people, like they were super hard to get a hold of anyway. And then when I asked them, was that just labor? Was that materials? What was it? They didn't respond. So needless to say, I did not go with them. Found out it was basically, that price was probably half of what it should have been anyway for labor. Yeah, so I think those dudes were just going to take my money, and they might have actually built me a shower, but they almost certainly would have done it not correctly. And then the only difference would be like roofing, for example, where a lot of these bigger companies, they'll be like, oh yeah, we have our own workers, we don't subcontract out. No, they do. They all do. They lie. And at least for me, the big box company that was like, this is our, as part of the sales presentation, they're like, these are our people, and with portraits and everything. None of them were the actual people that worked on the roof, though. I probably should have asked just to see what they said, but I'm sure it would have been a lie anyway, So they guaranteed hire another company to do it. And if you can find that company, well, there you go. Then there's your labor, and it's probably half or whatever. But then you gotta, the problem is you gotta deal with all that stuff yourself then. If you just go the labor route and hire just the company that does it, then you have to, schedule the time. You have to be the general contractor on site at that point. You got to make sure all the materials are delivered properly, and that, you got to order all the materials. You got to know what you actually need. You got to know how much you need, and for me, like, that's just a huge freaking headache. And I would just rather pay someone that knows what they're actually doing, that will take care of all that stuff for me, and then send me a bill at the end. That way I don't have to be out there all day watching these MFers dick around on my roof, So anything else? That's probably it. If you want the TLDR version, yeah, just interview them, figure out who knows what, and find the best person for the job based on the cost, I personally, it's the boomer mentality. It's like, go with the cheapest option always. But the problem is you get the cheapest results, and maybe if you're retired and you have time, it's worth it. Because maybe like this roof, let's say it only lasts 10 years. I'm in the South. Maybe the roof will only last 10 years. If I was able to hire a crew for $6,000 instead of the $16,000 that I paid, Um, you know, if the 6,000 crew was going to give me a 8-year roof or a 6-year roof, like what's my tolerance for risk? Maybe that would be okay. But I, I mean, at least with the roof, you never know if it's done correctly until it rains. So I guess we'll see. But more than likely, they did a good job, or at least a mostly good job. So, yeah, that's all. That's basically it. Hopefully, this video was interesting and entertaining. And thank you guys so much for your time and attention. Hopefully, it helped. As always, guys, questions, comments, concerns, good, bad, or different, let me hear them. I do read all of them. I do try and respond to all of them as well. What is your guys' what's your unique puzzle moment for today? But you can tell me that. That's totally fine. Mine is making this video because I've wanted to do it for a while and I just haven't. Like I said, I've learned a lot on this house. It is astonishing how much I've had to do on the house, but no major disasters, thankfully. Like my whole kitchen didn't explode or whatever, but I mean that could happen one day, and if that does, hopefully I have people for that. That's kind of the other thing is, if you find someone good, save their contact info. Like the people that did the roof they're actually a restoration company, so now I could be like, hey, do you guys do this? Do you guys do this? Do you do that? Right? But that's all. So that's it for today. Like I said, hope to see you guys next time. Till then, guys, take care.